Good afternoon. My name is Tanya Powers, and I'm discussing ethical violations in board discipline. One of the most common reasons for board discipline as a counselor, as stated by the American Counseling Association, and then still seems true throughout several states, is continuing education. That seems to be one of the top reasons. Dual relationships, just violations that, as a counseling student, I would think would be very easy to avoid. Some of the themes that I look at for board discipline in the state of Louisiana, which is where I was able to find several case decisions, is that all of the violations could so very easily have been avoided. Continuing education is something that, as a student, that we learn right away is very important to stay on top of. A particular case that I pulled for the state of Louisiana, the counselor, Miss David, engaged in a romantic relationship with her client. Not only did she engage in a romantic relationship with her client, but she counseled individually the client and the client's girlfriend and violated a code of confidentiality in that she disclosed information later to the client, which is now her girlfriend. Several codes were violated in this. The ACA Code of Ethics, there were several. First of all, A5A by the American Counseling, ACA Code of Ethics 2014 states that sexual and or romantic relationships are prohibited. As a counselor, you are not able to engage in a romantic relationship. Code A5C states that sexual or romantic relationships with former clients. If this had been a former client, she cannot have any romantic relationship with her until 5 years after the last date of contact. And that was a violation as well. Code B1C is respect for confidentiality. She breached confidentiality in releasing information to the girlfriend about the client's girlfriend. So several codes were violated in the ACA Code of Ethics. In the state of Georgia, which is where I live and where I'll be practicing, Rule 135.7-A, exploiting relationships for clients' personal gain or advantage. And the confidentiality in that was that she violated that in disclosing confidential information to the girlfriend after they began a romantic relationship and for her personal gain to, it appears, in the relationship so that she could enter into it. Not only that code by the state of Georgia, but also Rule 135.7-C, engaging in sexual activities or sexual advances with a client is in violation of integrity. And it is clear that this counselor has violated both of those rules, not only by the ACA Code of Ethics, by the state of Georgia as well. What was the outcome of the board discipline? So several outcomes in this. First of all, Ms. David, the counselor, will have to obtain 12 continuing education hours in ethics approved by the National Board of Certified Counselors, the ACA, or the Louisiana Counseling Association. In addition to that, 6 additional continuation hours must specifically relate to maintaining professional boundaries, since this seems to be an area that Ms. David is not fluent in. Ms. David also has to pay a $1,200 fee associated with the complaint within 2 years from the date that all parties sign the consent. Ms. David also will have to pay a fine to Louisiana in the amount of $4,000 within that 2 years. So several $1,000s. And again, her license are suspended for 2 years now for a violation that could have been very, very easily avoided. As stated by Wheeler and Bertram in 2019, many of the harmful behaviors come down to counselors' failure to know, understand, or abide by the violations of state and federal laws that govern the practice of counseling. As a counseling student, ethics being one of the very first courses that we take, this is something that needs to be embedded into counselors throughout school and then their counseling career. Staying on top of the ACA Code of Ethics, our local state code, as well as the continuing education requirements, it seems to be a common theme of violating. It will help to ensure that a counselor and that myself does not violate any of the codes that have been violated by this particular case. I find it very odd that some of the cases that I viewed had things that could have been easily avoided. I think staying in tune again with the code for our state, or for the Code of Ethics, staying in tune with the Code of Ethics as well as the codes for our current states will help us as students understand the do's and don'ts of counseling. And then when entering the counseling profession, will help us to fully understand what our responsibilities are, not to the client, but to ourselves. Thank you.